Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's video, what did the Texans do with Jimmie Ward coming into this next season on the last year of his deal? A lot of Texans fans are clamoring that the Texans should get rid of Ward. I'll kind of break that down in today's video, and the latest NFL power rankings, the way too early power rankings after Super Bowl 58. We'll break that down and where the Texans rank going into this offseason. But before we get started, I was there in Vegas all week long for Super Bowl 58, Radio Row Media. I was there. I talked with CJ. I talked a little bit with Nico. Got to see Will Anderson as well. Ran into Andre Johnson. Didn't really get to talk to him. But I just wanted to shout all these guys out, these three guys in particular, for winning awards this past week. Rookie of the Year on offense, Rookie of the Year on defense, and a well-deserved Hall of Fame for Andre Johnson. So, if you're proud of these guys, if you're proud to be a Texans fan, once again, I know these past couple of years going into this season, it was really rough for all Texans fans out there. But now, H-Town, we can stand up. We can be proud of this team. If you're proud to be a Texans fan, go down and hit that like button right now. I talked with a couple of the guys and they said, hey, love what you're doing on the channel. I've watched a couple episodes, so we are gaining some steam here. I know that Texans players watch this video, so show them some love. Go down and hit that like button right now to let them know you're proud to be a Texans fan once again. So now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's video. Probably the reason why you clicked into this video was the discussion around Jimmie Ward. Should the Texans keep him? Should they let him go? Should they stay or should they go? On Jimmie Ward, well, let's break down a little bit about Jimmie Ward. He signed this offseason to follow DeMeco Ryans to Houston from the 49ers, was an early round pick by the 49ers years ago. He's now 32 years old, kind of on the back end of his NFL career, and he only signed a 2-year deal with the Texans. So he's on the last year of his deal. Last season, he missed 7 games, and he ended the year on IR for the Houston Texans, missing the playoffs, missing that game against the Browns and the Ravens. So, what do you do with Jimmie Ward? Now, if you do decide to move on from Ward, there's obviously 2 options. You can cut him or you can trade him. If you cut Ward, the dead cap would be around $4 million, and you save $3.8. If he was to be traded, $2 million dead cap and a savings of $5.8 million. Now, I don't know if a trade is very likely with a 32-year-old safety coming off an injury where he ended the year on IR. So I don't know if that's really a possibility, but just wanted to give you the numbers around Ward if the Texans were to trade him or cut him this offseason. So let me kick it to you. What say you? Should the Texans keep Jimmie Ward on the roster? Give me a yes, give me a no down in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment. So there's a YouTube ad break here. Perfect timing. Let me know. If you were in charge, would you keep Jimmie Ward on this roster? Give me a yes. Give me a no. Let me know why you're thinking that down in the comment section. I, at the end of the day, think they could or they should keep Jimmie Ward on this team. I mean, he was obviously brought over for a reason. He knows DeMeco Ryans and the system is a huge part of this defense. I mean, DeMeco Ryans has lamented that multiple points in this season, a reason why he was really excited to bring on Jimmie Ward from that 49ers squad. And this past year, decent stats for only playing in 10 games, 50 tackles, 3 pass breakups, an interception, a big interception at that to end that Broncos game, and a forced fumble. The past 2 seasons has played really well as well. 2022, 12 games, had 5 pass breakups, 3 INTs, and 2021, 6 pass breakups and 2 INTs. But a kind of deeper dive into this past season, his PFF numbers, really middle of the pack for everything. He was, not a top 10 guy, but not a bottom 10 guy, kind of ranging in that middle tier of safeties with an overall grade of 68.4, run defense grade of 73.9, where he shines the best, in my opinion, being a safety, a hard hitter that can come into the box. Pass rush at 50.7 and a coverage grade of 67.8. And like I said earlier, I'm keeping Jimmie Ward if I'm the Texans, possibly drafting or signing another guy. But the only way I'm moving on from him is if you're getting a top safety. And I'm saying more likely if you're going to sign a top safety. If you're going to sign one of these guys in free agency and break the bank a little bit to get one of them, then I'm okay with releasing Jimmie Ward. If you get like an Antoine Winfield Jr., Kyle Duggar, Cameron Curl, Xavier McKinney. A sneaky name on this list are the last two, Jordan Fuller or Geno Stone, both 25 or younger, both coming off of really good years. They're going to probably look to get paid as well. If the Texans get one of those guys, I wouldn't mind moving on from Jimmie Ward. But what I think might be a little bit more likely for this Texans team is that they keep Ward. I mean, he's on the team for one more season. You don't save a ton of money by moving on from him. And then they draft one of these guys in the first 3 rounds. Tyler Nubin from Minnesota, he's rising up draft boards. Could be a late first-round pick. Same with Cameron Kinchins. And these two guys right here, Kalen Bullock and Javon Bullard, both guys who, if they're there in round 2 when the Texans select, I could see both those guys being on the Texans' big board and being a guy who the Texans possibly draft in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, I know I asked you earlier, yes or no, would you keep Jimmie Ward? But everybody has a person who they're like, oh, I would keep Jimmie Ward, but if this guy was available, I would replace him. I would replace Jimmie Ward with this guy. Let me know. What safety would you want to replace Jimmie Ward with? Even if you said no to the earlier question, let me know. Because I know there's obviously a guy, if you can upgrade at a position, you're going to want to do that. What safety would you want to replace Jimmie Ward with? Maybe out of the guys that I gave you, maybe somebody else, maybe trade for somebody. Let me know down in the comment section who you would want to replace Jimmie Ward with. Now, before we get into our way too early power rankings, want to give a special shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. Couldn't do today's show without them. And they're giving you great deals on some Texans hats. A lot of them on sale as well, like this Justice and Equity hat. You could go get them at our link, chatsports.com/Texans hat. They have a bunch of different styles, a bunch of different kinds of hats that you can get. You know, they have the warm hats. They have the hats that are good for the summertime coming up. Go check them out. Some great deals over there at Fanatics. Just head to our link, chatsports.com/Texans hat, Texans hats. That's going to be in the comment section and the description of today's video. Go check them out. A big shout out to Fanatics for sponsoring today's video. Now, coming up, where do the Texans rank in ESPN's way too early power rankings? They put it out right after Super Bowl 58, right after the Chiefs beat the 49ers in this year's big game. And surprisingly, ESPN didn't have the Chiefs at number 1 going into next season. Here's their way too early power rankings. They have the Ravens at 1, the Chiefs sitting there at 2, Niners at 3, Lions at 4, Bills at 5. Then you got the Dolphins at 6, Cowboys at 7, Eagles at 8, and your Houston Texans sitting there at 9, 1 spot above the Green Bay Packers. So you saw their list that ESPN had for their way too early power rankings. Now, maybe take your Texans shades off. Be honest with me. Where would you rank the Texans going into next season? Is it 1? Is it a little bit lower? Is it 10, 11, 12? Where would you have them going into next season? I think they're pretty fairly ranked there at 9. I might honestly slide them a little bit above the Eagles and the Cowboys because I think the Texans maybe have a little bit more promise going into next season. This is what ESPN had to say about the Texans' power rankings going into next year. They said, the Texans hit on quarterback in C.J. Stroud last offseason and have $61 million in cap space. So their window to maximize Stroud's rookie contract is now. But also the organization has the most free agents, 30, entering the offseason. And all of them were at one point on the active 53-man roster, while 8 started at least 10 games. Texans have a lot of free agents. The 2024 Texans definitely will look different. GM Nick Caserio and coach DeMeco Ryans must build correctly to continue the momentum created by winning the AFC South title this past season. And a lot of expectations are coming the Texans' way, which hasn't been the case for the past couple of years, as we all know. I mean, the Texans, if I told you before last season they were going to win the AFC South, you'd either call me crazy or stupid because nobody really saw that coming in year 1 under DeMeco Ryans, year 1 with a new quarterback in C.J. Stroud. But this team, like they mentioned in the article, has a lot of decisions to make. There are a lot of guys who are going to hit free agency, like Jonathan Grenard, Devin Singletary, among others. Blake Cashman is a big free agent the Texans could look to re-sign. And then they also have a lot of options in NFL free agency from other teams, you know? Like I mentioned the safeties from earlier. A lot of defensive tackles could become available. So this Texans roster could look a lot different going into next season, which could sway where they land right before next year on the early power rankings. But, I mean, you're never out of it with C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans, in my opinion, especially if Stroud takes that next step, which everything that I talked to him about during Super Bowl week, during media week, Stroud is locked in right now, ladies and gentlemen. He said he doesn't even want to look at the Lombardi Trophy until it's in H-Town, until the Texans win it. He said he's going to, take a month off, take 2-3 weeks off, go on vacation, really rest his shoulder. He said he really wants to get better for next year. Not that he's injured, but from throwing balls for 9 months, he wants to lay it off, give his arm a little bit of rest. And then he said after this month, he's getting right back into it. He's going and working out with his trainers. He's going to set up some stuff with possibly some new teammates, new wide receivers, to get that going in the offseason. And he is squarely focused on getting the Texans back into the playoffs and making a Super Bowl run next year, which, I mean, if that doesn't excite you a little bit, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, you might have to check your pulse, because I am so pumped for what this Texans team is going to do next year with C.J. Stroud and company. Now, that's all I have for you on today's video, but if you love the Texans and want more free Texans videos, go down and hit that sub button. Like I said, didn't get a lot of content this past week. I was out in Super Bowl Radio Row trying to get a lot of content for the team here at Chat Sports, but I'm going to be ramping it up these next couple of weeks, trying to get you as much Texans content as possible, and I'm trying to hit 20K subscribers before the start of next season. We already passed 11K, so 9 more to go. Help me out if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free, and hey, I always say, give me a week. Subscribe, and if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. But let me show you, let me prove to you why this is the #1 Texans channel on YouTube for your latest Texans news and rumors.